Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. The Jamaican music scene is among the most vibrant and dynamic cultural spaces on the planet, and in the past 60 plus years, we've seen a slew of variants emanate from that gorgeous island. Every time we hear the term real Jamaican music, what first comes to mind are the juggernauts of dancehall and reggae. But if you were to ask music critics and historians what they thought, they will very likely tell you that the peak and most important era of Jamaican music is what we now refer to today as the Rocksteady era. While reggae's time is undoubtedly the longest and most successful era, Rocksteady is deemed the most influential and foundational era, and not to mention the very sound from which reggae itself would be born from. Though that era was the shortest, its impact would see it change the direction of the island sound forever and would spark the rise of a whole new generation of superstar vocalists who had been unable to truly express themselves under the frenetic pace of ska, but would capitalize on the slower and more melodic tempo of Rocksteady with incredible results. That was the era that saw the dramatic rise to dominance of vocal harmony trios. These harmony groups had been important features of ska, mind you, but would cement their place under this new sound. That makes the numerous wonderful things that Rocksteady brought to Jamaican music. The most telling was the infusion of conscious lyrics with societal and spiritual content. The debates surrounding the origins of this genre and its true pioneers are among the most hotly contested in world music, with many versions of where it truly came from since it took off in 1966. Let's take a look at the history and origins of Rocksteady. Now this story begins with Rocksteady's predecessor in the amazing ska, the sound that launched Jamaica's music industry. Ska was invented in Jamaica around 1959 and was a fusion of indigenous forms of Caribbean music like mento and calypso with American R&B and jazz. And by the time Jamaica got independence in 1962, it emerged as the dominant genre on the island. Its frenetic paced rhythms and complementary fast and feverish dance moves were all indicative of the wave of optimism that swept Jamaica in the years following the beginning of self-rule. The prime promoters and movers of ska were producers like Coxsone Dodd and Prince Buster, plus musical acts like the Scatterlights, Toots and the Maytals, and the Wailers. It was simply the hottest sound around, and would even go international for the first time when a former Coxsone Dodd artist, Millie Small, would bag a worldwide smash hit with the song My Boy Lollipop in 1964. However, by 1966, the rapid-fire pace of ska had given way to a new sound that was slower, more soulful, melodic, and very different. While the average ska band was a massive troupe of instrumentalists, including a trombonist, double bass player, trumpeters, and saxophonists that almost drowned the voices of singers, this new sound would feature a smaller band that allowed the vocalists more room to express his or her talents. And this sound is what became known as Rocksteady. There are three main theories of how Rocksteady came into existence. The first one is that in the summer of 1966, there was a heat wave like no other that was so intense that people weren't interested in doing all the frenetic fast dance moves to keep up with the ska rhythms, and this led to musicians having to come up with slower instrumentals to keep the sound system dance halls full and the owners happy. The second theory is in line with the principles of art mimicking what is going on in society. By 1966, the post-independence party was over and optimism had given way to very serious disappointment, as the expected economic boom never came and thousands of migrants from the countryside had moved to the capital of Kingston and flooded into the ghettos instead of greener pastures that didn't exist. The economic and social problems would seep into the music and resulted into a slower and less excited beat. While this second theory has strong elements of fact in it, it's theory number 3 that is the most accurate and authoritative version. The Trinidadian ace guitarist Lynn Tate was the leader of a band called the Jets that at the time were the in-house backing band at Jamaica's first recording studio, Federal Records. One day, a young singer called Hopton Lewis came to the studio to record a song that he named Take It Easy. By then, the ghettos in Kingston were a war zone, and the song was a message to the rude boys who were causing all the trouble, advising them to slow it down, or in other words, take it easy. Now these rude boys were the same young people who had moved to Kingston after independence and turned to crime when they couldn't find jobs. So Tate's band tried to record the track over a quick ska rhythm, but it just wasn't working. So on impulse, Tate told his pianist, Gladstone Anderson, to slow down the pace. And when he did this, the band followed suit, and the result was Take It Easy, a sublime 2 minutes and 50-second masterpiece of a slow ska rhythm that sold 10,000 copies in the weekend it was released. This creation would fascinate the entire island, and Lynn Tate's innovation would catch on like wildfire, with the best artists in Jamaica all looking to get on board this new train. And Lynn Tate would in no time start arranging similar instrumentals for songs like Alton Ellis's Girl I've Got a Date and Derek Morgan's Tougher Than Tough. And before you knew it, the entire Jamaican music industry had caught the bug. The great Coxsone Dodd, who had been the leading man and producer in the ska era, quickly adapted and launched that style at Studio One and opened his account with the song Train Is Coming by singer Ken Booth, which featured backing vocals by the Wailers, and other producers would follow suit, with the likes of Leslie Kong that produced Desmond Decker's Rocksteady hit 007. But this new era saw Coxsone Dodd lose ground to his biggest rival, Duke Reid of Treasure Isle Records. Treasure Isle would become ground zero of the new style of music, as it became the home of vocal groups like the Paragons, the Techniques, and the Silvertones, among many others. And with the room this new sound allowed singers to shine in, solo vocalists like Delroy Wilson, Marshall Griffiths, Phyllis Dillon, and the great Alton Ellis would all come into their own in those times. Alton Ellis in particular would in fact be the one to formally identify that phenomenon when he released his hit track Rocksteady, a tune that earned him the nickname Godfather of Rocksteady, similar to what Tooth and the Maytals would do 2 years later with the song Do the Reggae. And for me, the most important feature of those times is that it was in that period that the conscious message-driven lyrics that would become the foundation of roots reggae would be laid. Rocksteady singers like Bob Andy would do tracks like Unchained, the Heptones did Equal Rights, and the Melodians would sing Rivers of Babylon, all conscious music with spiritual and social meaning. But don't get it twisted though, at its core, Rocksteady was always a sound for romance. However, by 1968, all the socio-economic factors that brought about the evolution of ska to Rocksteady would again alter the music landscape, as the Rocksteady sound would morph into the throbbing drum and bass driven phenomenon that we now know as reggae music. Interestingly though, it had begun around the same time that Rocksteady came into existence in 1966 with the visits of Emperor Haile Selassie to Jamaica. The Emperor's visits sparked a massive wave that caused the popularity of the Rastafarian faith to explode in Jamaica, and saw a large number of Rocksteady artists, including Rita Marley and the Wailers, become Rastafarians. And this cultural wave would lead to the infusion of African elements like Nabingi drums, even more cultural and spiritual messages, as well as new variations to the sound that was spearheaded by new producers like Lee Scratch Perry, Joe Gibbs, and King Tubby. And it's good to mention that another telling factor is the fact that Rocksteady titans like Lynn Tate and Jackie Mittoo left the island and emigrated to Canada also in 1968, leaving the vacuum that these new arrangers and producers would fill, and reggae would go on to become Jamaica's biggest export and the dominant sound till this day. The Rocksteady era lasted roughly 18 months, but is still widely popular and is celebrated by music historians as the most creative and finest period in Jamaica's music history. It produced the best singers, songwriters, and instrumentalists, and when you consider that many of the rhythms from the Rocksteady era are still heavily sampled by reggae artists today, you can truly understand why it's regarded as the peak of Jamaican music. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.